Hello, and welcome back to Coffee and Colorful Conversation. Today, I promised to talk about something that has served me well in my over 36 years of coloring hair behind the chair. I have come up with a structured roadmap for when I do my color consultation. In May, I'm going to be traveling to Portugal. My son is turning 25. He graduated college during COVID, so he had no college graduation, no celebration. He had so many things that he missed along the way because of COVID shutdowns that I wanted to really do a big thing for his 25th birthday. My 25th birthday was one of the happiest times of my life, as it should be. So, in planning the trip, I had to book so many flights. We're moving around a lot. We're doing little flights in between countries. It's a big trip. And none of that gave me anxiety. The thing that gives me anxiety is knowing that my trusted phone that has my GPS in it, as soon as I get off the plane in another country, it no longer works the way that it does here. So technology has come really far. But when he and I went to visit his sister, she was living in Thailand a few years ago. We went to visit her. And as soon as we got off the plane, I realized that all of my information, the names of the hotel, directions to the hotel, all of that needed internet to be found on my phone. And when you get off the plane, a 23-hour flight in another country, your phone just doesn't work. You have to go and get a new SIM card. That is completely intimidating to me as someone my age. I'm pretty good with technology, but that was above my pay grade. So that is the first thing I think of when I think of this trip to Portugal, because we're landing in Portugal. We need a ride from the airport to the Airbnb. Then once we get to the Airbnb, we're going to be moving to another town. Are we taking a train? Are we renting a car? Are we hiring a driver? What are the logistics? So having a GPS can be the biggest and best safety feature that you can have, especially if you're traveling solo. If you're, a single person traveling alone, it can be kind of intimidating figuring out how to get from A to B. But since these were invented, it is so much easier to travel either alone or with a group. And you can go anywhere in the world and you can easily say, recommend a restaurant near me, and Siri will pop up 3 restaurants along with ratings of people who've been to those restaurants, and they'll tell you exactly what dish they had and how amazing it was or not amazing it was. So when it comes to hair color, I feel like most of us are operating from our beauty school information, the Rolodex in our mind of what we learned in beauty school, however many years ago that was. And we don't have a clear structured plan, or like what I like to call it, a roadmap. So part of my roadmap is an in-depth, really clear, awesome consultation. In my opinion, it is the most skipped over, missed opportunity and leads to the most redos and lost income. I could spend hours going down the rabbit hole on many Facebook forums, but it's just way too negative energy for me. It puts me in an instant bad mood. But the theme over and over again is, can you believe this client is saying this, that she wants her hair redone? And I'm like, yeah, I can. I'm looking at her before, I'm looking at her after, and I'm looking at her inspo pic. And I'm like, on what planet do you think you nailed that? It looks nothing like it. So you hear me often say on here, or if you remember in my Hair Color Secrets Insider, you hear me say most clients don't know the difference between amazing color and get by color. It's okay. My gray's covered. I'm all good. It's basically like the client looks in the mirror and says, okay, no more gray, no brassy orange or green tint. I'm good. I have a boring brown. I'm good to go. So that's what you're relying on, is that uneducated client who's not asking for a lot. She's very basic. She's very easy. But wouldn't you rather be that color expert that is known in your area when someone wants to make a big change from brunette to a red, an impactful red or a blonde bombshell? Wouldn't you love to have the confidence to be able to articulate what it is they want, then do a step-by-step roadmap to get you there in the best way possible while protecting the integrity of her hair? So for me, excuse me, part of my roadmap process is using the right tools. So number one in the consultation is being eye level with the guest and making them feel at ease. A lot of us just automatically want to, I'm going to raise my little fancy desk here. It goes up and down. So a lot of us want to stand, your client is sitting in your chair and we're standing. And, if they're in this chair, you're talking to them, you kind of get into this position, right? You're like, oh, welcome. Nice to see you. What are we doing for your hair today? That phrase number one goes right through me. I hate hearing, what are we doing to your hair today? You would never have a doctor say that to you when you go to a doctor visit. Oh, what are we doing today? They may say, tell me about what brings you to this visit. That's a different tone. Not, okay, tell me what I'm doing. Boss me around and tell me what I'm doing. Because then the same stylist that doesn't take the time to get on the level of the client. So what I recommend is sitting across from them in a seated position. Do not cross your arms. I usually put my hands in my lap because it can be kind of awkward not knowing what to do with them. So I'll put my hands in my lap and I kind of sit on an angle in another chair and I'm face to face with them at their level. I'm not doing this like I'm the boss and you're going to do what I want you to do. They're already a little bit nervous, especially if they're brand new. So they're coming in there with a little bit of apprehension of, I don't know how this is going to go. So starting off and making them feel more comfortable is step one. Then having the conversation of, what is it that you love about your hair? What is it that you don't love about your hair is a great segue into what's next, because a lot of people, because they're nervous, will say, just match what I have. But I go deeper and I say, Eileen, say her name's Jill. I don't know why I always use Jill as my fake person. So Jill, you're coming to me for the first time and you clearly have color on your hair that's been happening for a long time. So there's a reason you left your current colorist and I want to hear about that. And it's not to get them to bash the other colors to make you feel like you're all that. It's to get to the bottom of why they left. It could be simply their colorist retired, their colorist moved. Like I moved to Florida. So my clients had to either stay in the salon and see the person I hired to replace me or go elsewhere, but they didn't have a choice. They had to move on from me. So that's your best case scenario, is that they really like what the person did, but they just are forced to make a change. The worst case scenario is that client that says, oh, let me tell you, you're the fifth person that I'm trying because nobody gets it right. Immediately my antenna sticks up and I'm like, oh boy, she's going to be tough, but not necessarily. It could be that the other four people up until now stood above her, crossed their arms, acted like the big bad wolf, and didn't take the time to hear the clues that she was giving them. Listen for the breadcrumbs. Listen for too brassy, too light, too stripy, not light enough, not warm enough, not cool enough. The clues are there. They don't know that they're speaking hair color language, and that's okay. They don't have to. You need to lean in and listen. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth so that you could listen more than you speak. Nobody talks more than me. So it's really hard for me to listen, but during a consultation is probably the quietest you will ever see me behaving, because I really want the client to do all of the talking. And then I take it a step further. After they tell me what they like, what they don't like, I step back and I look at them and I say, does what they're wearing now suit their skin tone and their eye color? Most people don't take the time to do that. I've seen it in many, many cases where someone asks a question on a forum, like, what do you think, my client, what formula do I need to do this? And I say, first of all, do you think this is the best choice for that client? Because it may be, a really violet red on someone who is super warm in their skin tone. They're like yellow and have a really warm skin tone and warm green veins in their skin. And violet would not be the best choice for them. So I always go a step further. And that is why we became known in our area as the color experts. Our whole branding portfolio is Luxe Color Lounge. It's called a color lounge. A lot of people said when I rebranded, they're like, why would you call it a color lounge? People are going to think they can't get a haircut. I'm like, well, first of all, it's a rebrand. So all of the clients who already come here are staying here. They're not going anywhere. So they already know they can get a haircut. Brand new clients, I'm going to get a lot more people that are going to look for me as color experts. You can get a haircut anywhere. You can go to the hair cutter, you can go to Super Clips, Great Clips, all those places and get a decent haircut, but not always the case with color. So we chose to really lean in on that specialty. So in order to be considered an expert, in my opinion, you have to take it to the next level in your consultation. So I talk about I look into their eyes and I can see by their eye color whether or not they're going to pull a lot of warmth and what I have to add to my formula to counteract that. I'm going to be sharing that in my workshop that starts on April 6th. It's called Hair Color Formulation Simplified, and we're going to talk about how eye color can tell you if somebody's going to have a brassy result. What does it mean if a client has pink skin and blue veins versus green skin and yellow skin and green veins? These are all the breadcrumbs that I talked about, giving you the hints on what is best to do for that client's color. It's taking that consultation to a whole new level. Once you get through all of that and you decide where you're going, the next step is the actual roadmap questions. There's a list of questions that I ask myself when I'm going through the consultation. And one of them involves using this tool. So I'm going to talk about this tool in the workshop. I talk about it often in my coffee chats. If you don't have one, please get one. It doesn't have to be mine, but you need to have a finder to show you the natural levels and where they sit in the hair and how to judge that in someone's natural color. And you also need to know what levels of warmth live at each level that you're going to be combating when you're lifting. So if you've never heard of RPC, if you've never heard of neutralizing versus naturalizing, if you've never heard of any of these terms and you've never used a tool like that, chances are your clients are the ones that are getting by with an average boring brown that's not really what they asked for, but just not awful. So if I'm speaking to you, you need to sign up for this class soon. So I will share the link underneath this post. Once you finish watching this, I'll be able to share the link to purchase the workshop and or purchase the level tool. So using the tools to your advantage, what's really nice about this is I had it made with showing the levels of gray, because in my opinion, that's where the most things go wrong in formulation, is under or overestimating the percentage of gray. That's a big one. Big one. If you say that this guest is 75% gray because you're an exaggerator, you're going to formulate thinking there's more gray than natural. And it's really actually the opposite. So it shows the percentages of gray, and it's a reminder of what you need on the color wheel. Sometimes we're busy in the salon and we just completely blank out when it comes to the color wheel. We're like, is it blue cancels orange, or is it blue? What is that again? You know, we learned it in beauty school. I don't know about you, but for me, when I learned it in beauty school, I was like, what the hell does this have to do with hair color? I just did not get it at all. It was not explained well to me, or I just wasn't there yet. On our coaching call with the Next Level Insiders last night, I was talking about beauty school and how the blame game is going on, where the beauty schools are blaming the state is blaming the beauty schools, the salons are blaming the beauty schools, when a lot of the things are the state. So there's this whole triangle of blame. And the awful part of it is, in the end, the student is being, not given what they need. So sometimes, and an instructor is one of my Next Level students, and she said, remember, sometimes when you hear information, you are not at a level of knowledge that you can accept it or understand it. And I was like, that was huge. That is so true. In 1986, when I sat in that beauty school class, I didn't know anything about hair. So if you say something to me now, I get it in a second. But back then, all I knew is how to curl my own 80s big hair and tease it and spray Aquanet in it. I did not know anything about color. So when they talked about this wheel and canceling things, I was like, what do you mean cancel? What are you talking about? I just want to make a woman who has gray hair have brown hair with no gray. That's all I was looking for. And we never quite got to that. I graduated and we still didn't get to that. Whole other story. And I'm no longer going to bash beauty school, because I really understand now that it truly is the State Board of Cosmetology is the underlying issue. And until we can get through to them that what they're doing is a broken system and it's not setting us up for success, I'm going to keep doing my part and pick up the baton where the beauty school is forced to leave off. That is my passion, and my drive, and all of the things that I do every day are to pick up that baton from where it was left off until people are successful behind the chair. I had someone share in a forum today that she's 10 years in and she's totally discouraged and she just wants to quit, that she's been doing mostly cutting and she just really never understood color and she kind of avoided it for so long. And now she's embarrassed because she's 10 years in and she's embarrassed to ask questions at her salon. And what was upsetting to me, I jumped in and said, I would be happy to be your mentor. This is what I do. This is exactly why I exist on this planet, to offer you the mentorship that you need. Please reach out to me. I am happy to help you. Other comments, the overwhelming majority was, girl, go get yourself a suite. Go get yourself a suite and don't worry about those bullies in your salon. And I was like, is that really the answer? She's been avoiding the color education for 10 years. She's going to go into a suite and she's still going to be doing just cuts. She's not going to be maximizing her income. And now she has rent to pay versus being in a salon where she's already busy and she doesn't have any overhead or any stress. She just wants to learn color. So I just get upset that that's always everybody's answer is go get a suite, go on your own. Then you're really on your own. Then you really don't have anybody to bounce things off of or ask questions. Most of the people that join my coaching are people who are in suites because they don't have a person to run something by to say, hey, this is what I'm thinking to do for this person. What do you think? You give that up when you go into a suite. So rather than go to the extreme of you have to quit your job, you have to pack everything up and start a whole new life, don't be so dramatic. Just don't be afraid to say, I don't understand and I missed this. I promise you this workshop, so far we have 55 people signed up and we have people coming in every single day. The deadline is not until the day of, starts on April 6th. So we'll probably, hopefully have at least 100 people in there. And when I start the workshop, I say, tell me where you're tuning in from and how many years you've been doing hair. And I promise you, I've done this. This is probably the 10th time I've done a workshop like this. And every single person will be 5 to 25 years in the industry. There will not be a single person that says, just graduated, just got my license. Number one, the just graduated, just got their license is intimidated to even go to the next step because they're like, I don't know anything and I'm going to be embarrassed. Then the one that's 5+ years is like, I'm embarrassed to say that I want to take the fundamentals because I should have already known the fundamentals. But you hear stories all the time about people who can't read as an adult. And they'll say to you, I got embarrassed because I wasn't able to read by 3rd or 4th grade. And I was so far behind my classmates that I just started cheating on the test and just started taking their answers because I was too embarrassed to admit I couldn't read. So don't do the equivalent of not being able to read by not being able to formulate because you don't know about this roadmap. You don't know that there's tools like this out here that are designed to help you out and help answer those questions for you. I get so many questions about glazing and toning. You know, how do I glaze and tone and how do I formulate for that? And then there's all these educators that just keep throwing recipes up. And if I want you to pretend that we're in Starbucks and I'm in line and this is my hair right now, and the person behind me is more of a beigey, cool, ashy, super ashy, browned, like a blonde. They're on the border of brown. And then the person behind them doesn't have any highlights and is just an all over natural blonde. The formula that I mix up and use on my hair, the person behind me hair, and the person behind them is going to look completely different on all three of us. So stop following recipes. If you've seen my Instagram lately, I've gotten a little crazy on my posts. And I'm like, the only place that a recipe belongs is in a restaurant or in your kitchen. That's where a recipe belongs. Recipes are going to set you up for failure because you're not understanding where you're coming from, where the hair is at that moment, and all of the hair history, as well as the density, the texture, the porosity, the condition, what state is the hair in, completely different. I have, 3 doll heads that I'm looking at right now. I should have had them here prepared to show you. They all started out the same exact color. They all had the same exact process done. But what was put on as the finishing touch, the final glaze, really made them look like 3 completely different women, even though they started out lifted to the exact same stage. So that's a whole other ballgame. But until you understand the fundamentals of color and understand that this roadmap is there for you for your consultation, you're always going to struggle. You're always going to guess, stress, and pray to whatever God you believe in that things turn out okay. And I want more for you, and you should want more for you. So just stop right now. There is zero judgment. I promise you, every time I've done a workshop like this, there's never anyone mean on the call, because if they even thought about getting mean, I would bump them off of the screen and be like, you need to go, because we need to support one another and we need this education. So help me spread the word. If you're listening to this and you're like, I can formulate in my sleep, that is awesome. And I'm so proud of you. And I'm so happy that you did what you had to do to get to this point. But there are a lot of coworkers in your salon, because I hear it every day from my members. I had a one-on-one here with one of my members, and she's like, I keep trying to help these people that work beside me and they don't want to listen to me. And she's like, it pains me to watch them making these mistakes that are so easily avoided from what I've learned from you. I want to share with them what I've learned from you and they don't listen. And I'm like, trust me, as an educator, I feel your pain. Some people just aren't ready. And that may be you. You may not be ready. But I'm seeing a lot of names signing up for this. I was sharing with my husband. I went down the list to see if I saw any familiar names. And all of the names were very unfamiliar, which is great. It means there's brand new people. So I was like, oh, awesome. Let me see how they ended up here. And when I click on it, they joined my email list in 2021. So for 2 years, they've been getting emails from me. They've been showing up for these coffee chats. They've been checking out my YouTube. They've been listening to my podcast. And it took them 2 years to pull out their credit card and say, I need help. So no judgment. I'm glad you're here now. It doesn't matter that it took you 2 years. But what I will say is, imagine that person, if in 2021 they pulled out their card and signed up for the workshop, how much further along they would be right now, 2 years later, than starting right back where they were 2 years ago. So fear is a monster. We all have it. We all have that voice in the back of our head that tells us we can't, we shouldn't, we're not good enough, we don't matter. All of those things come into play. But if you just step beyond your fear and just go for it anyway and see what is possible on the other side of that fear, you could get one, I promise you, there's way more than one, but you could get one single nugget in these 3 sessions that is going to completely change your life behind the chair and change your level of income completely. It happened in the last workshop and the one before that and the one before that. You can read my testimonials for days on people who've gotten results from what I've taught them. I don't share anything with you in this workshop or any of my trainings that I don't actually use myself and that I haven't had success with. I never share anything I haven't tested on 8 million swatches and on human hair, on clients, on doll heads for years, over 35 years I've been doing this. So I get rid of all the stuff that did not work and I skip over that and I get right to the juicy stuff. So if you want fast transformation in all things hair color, I am your girl. I don't get into the deep, dark level, the deep, dark world of the chemistry of hair, because as important as that was in beauty school, you got all of that from beauty school. It's the how to use it that beauty school had to spend so much time on the chemistry because of the state board, not blaming the beauty school, but they had to dive so much deeper into the how does it work that they didn't have the time to say, now how do you put it onto the hair and see it in action? So that's where we're going to go. We're going to pick up the baton where they left off, and we're going to get you deep into the formulation, the why, the how, the real world application. Session 3 is called Let's Formulate, where I'm going to put a picture up and I'm going to talk you through exactly what goes through my mind when I see the before and I see the inspo, and we're going to do it together. And you're going to see just how predictable and easy and simple this formulation roadmap is, where you're going to be like, oh my gosh, where has this been my whole life? So I hope you'll join the workshop. In the meantime, check out other prior coffee chats, check out my YouTube, check out my Ask the Color Expert podcast. I would love for you to subscribe to my YouTube, subscribe to my podcast, and leave me a review. Would be amazing, because on podcasts, iTunes rewards you when people do a review, and I never think to even ask people to do it. And I never think to leave a review on the podcast that I listen to. So thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you on the next one.